What's up, Elise? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How
This
are
is
you?
cool. I'm good. Oh, I just got a notification we are live, I think on YouTube. No watchers. That's good. So thanks for being with me. This is awesome. I'm so glad I asked you to be here. I have been watching just on Instagram, taking notice when I started following you maybe a few months ago as I've gotten into the coaching space and looking for influence, looking for inspiration, looking for different modalities as I work with cops and veterans. And I'm like highly self-aware and compassionate. So I pay attention to people and they do things different than me or maybe more unique. And I pay attention how they do it, why they do it. And you are just every day putting out content, speaking to men, talking to men. And I'm just fascinated by it. So like not how you got into coaching, but like what is the why for you? Like when you wake up every day working with these guys and I see some of the toxic comments on your post, it's like, and you're so gracious with them. You're so compassionate and kind and you call them sir or friend. And it's like, it's cool. It's like, you
You
don't really
call him
go, I'm just,
sir, friend.
yeah. And I'm like, yo, she's just like, tell me about that. How's that? How you okay with doing all that?
That's a lot of questions wrapped up into one. So,
That's true.
I think when you are choosing coaching as a profession or any profession that you have to take an outside perspective on things that nothing is personal. So in the beginning, you can tend to take things personally, like they don't know, and then you try to like over explain yourself. Just like I'm sure if you're a new doctor or you're a new law enforcement and you've just done all this work and done all this training, and then someone disrespects you or they try to act like they know more than you do, and you get mad, right?
Hmm.
But eventually, as you've been in something for so long, you realize like they just don't know any better. And so the why is ultimately you have to be focused on the mission of like, what is the purpose isn't to glorify myself. The purpose is to glorify the mission.
Okay.
So
So let me ask you about that because basically when you get those haters comments, they're basically accusing you of glorifying yourself. And I know from being in a space similar to you or working with people similar to you that it's an altruistic goal. I mean, we wake up like you take a lot of crap to work with people. So it's funny you get accused of the thing that you're really opposite about. Like that's again, I think that's fascinating how you kind of compartmentalize and work with that.
yeah, it's really interesting. Well, can you give me an example of like a comment that you're talking about that would
Yeah.
say something like
Like
that?
last night I was messing around on your Instagram trying to do some research and some guy you made a video talking about the hero role. I think it was one of your most recent videos and some guy with a bunch of guys were like that's a bunch of crap and I'm only gonna listen to a man and talk about what does a woman know about a hero? Just people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, first of all, wow, like who's comfortable being out on social media being that open and raw? And two, it's kind of coming from a place of brokenness and dysfunction on somebody trying to help you and provide information and add value. I just think it's crazy to me, and I just celebrate you because you're positive and you're making cookies and you're still trying to influence and tap into this base that I've experienced can be really toxic, really dysfunctional at times. So I celebrate you, and I find it interesting. Like, how did you build such confidence and self-esteem to work with men like that?
Yeah. Well, and that is something that takes it takes practice and it takes learned experience. In the beginning, like when I was doing a lot of stuff on TikTok, TikTok is very toxic. Like people don't care on TikTok because it's completely like you can hide in the shadows on TikTok. So people will just spout off all this crap. So people would like compare me to the devil and like just all this crazy stuff, right?
How does that
And
make you
then
feel? How does that make you feel?
well, now it doesn't make me feel any type of way. Before
Wow.
it bothered me because I was like, it like made my heart race. I was like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this. And I was like reading all the comments. But then I said to myself one day, I was like, okay, Elise, if you want Jeff Bezos' level of success, you have to be willing to take Jeff Bezos' level of hate.
Mm.
Because the most successful people in the world are really some of the most hated people. And so what? You're gonna cry about this now when you have like barely any success, and you're gonna, like you're crying for what? Like you should be grateful that people are hating you because that means you're disrupting something within them.
Mm.
Um, and so as I gain more success, now I look at them and I responded to someone this morning on the hero syndrome thing because they sent me this, they comment this long thing about like really respectfully, I think she means well, but men shouldn't listen to women because they don't understand and blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, this is so annoying. I was like, this is the only time I'm going to comment this. I responded, I'm like, respectfully, and I really do mean this respectfully, every single time a man comments this on my posts, he has zero social proof as to why I should listen to him. Why would I listen to you? You don't have any social proof. This is not your career. You have no profile picture, no evidence that you've done any research besides the fact that you're just a man. You can't say that to someone. I've been doing this for 6 years. You can't just you're just assuming that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about when I've built this entire social media following and a business on top of it. So it's just I don't care. It's just annoying because it's think that I am maybe some steps ahead of you. I know what I'm talking about. And so I was just like, dude, next time, just get rid of all the poo-poo niceties that you're trying to cover up your opinion with and just put your opinion. Just put what you disagree about it.
Exactly.
I'm willing to listen to your disagreements. I don't care that you're oh, I hope she means well, but men should only listen to men. No, that's why you're in this mess. Come on now.
It
wake
is
up.
so true. It is so true. I remember as a cop, you could deliver 95% of great news. It could be hey, I'm going to give you an overtime bonus, time off, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody would just look at you and be like, well, what are we doing for mealtime? And it was you could deliver the world to somebody and it's not good enough. They want more. And I see in this world we live in today, I don't know if it's materialism or just the social media just moving so fast. I work with men now. I see a lot of men who don't stop and are self-aware and ask themselves, what am I doing in this situation to either cause problems or to be successful and help everyone around me? We just do. And it's you got to stop. You might be in your 50s and you've been doing this wrong your whole life. And somebody's finally having the courage to tell you that. And you're getting mad at them. Having the courage. It takes courage to look at you bro, you're doing it wrong. But I can show you something that I've learned. I don't have it all figured out. But I'm actually going to take on this conflict to share because I care about you and I want you to have a good life. We don't do that. It's uncomfortable. And it's just, so I celebrate you again that you're in these comments or on these platforms interacting with men, taking their brunt of their insecurities and their, deceptive tactics and narcissistic traits. And you just keep rolling with it. So, all right, from a business perspective, let's talk about business. I think it's fascinating. What are some of the lessons you learned in business in 6 years that, going into it, you would not have thought about? Maybe a hardship or maybe even a blessing that you're just wow, that happened, in business?
Oh boy. Well, I think it's good to say that before I started my business, I was studying a lot of self-development, a lot of business books, going to conferences for 5 or 10 years before I started my business. So, and my personality is much less plan and write it all out and think about everything. I'm literally just a think and do person. So I don't have time to get anxiety or worry about anything. I think this is where a lot of people get stuck when they're building their businesses because they try to make everything perfect. The one thing that I will say, and I said all that just to say, because when I started my business, I was successful from the beginning. I was always making money from it. It has continuously grown. Things can be a lot more improved because you should have an aspect of yourself that is able to plan and be logical and strategic. And I'm totally just intuitive. However, yeah, I think one of the things that, you learn in the beginning, everybody does, is you don't need the website and the logo and the brand. And the only thing that makes a business is if it makes money. Does your business make money? If you say that you have a business and it's not making any money, you don't have a business. You have an idea.
Right.
And the market's
so
going to tell you. So whenever somebody tells me that they want to start a business and then they go into this spiel about, okay, I'm getting my website set up, I'm getting my logo. And I'm like, why did you sell anything yet? No, I want to be prepared. I want to be ready. I'm like, all right, bro, you're going to learn fast because you're not going to make any money. And then you're going to have this freaking website that's dead. And because nobody cares about your website, they care about what you can deliver to them. And that's also why I don't listen to the comment section, because I just know that they don't know. right?
Right.
Because I did my entire first year of business, no website, no reviews, no logo, no professional setup. I started my business on LinkedIn with the camera like this. I still film with my camera like this. Um, because people don't care about that. They care about if you can understand them and solve their problem. Focus on that. Whatever your niche is, like focus on solving the problem so well that you are undeniably the right choice.
Yeah, that's problem solving. Yeah, you're right about that. And that's like entrepreneur 101, like learn how to solve problems. I admit, like I got into business 3.5 years ago, at least not have any plan, no strategy, no mentor. I've never sold a freaking thing in my life. And then I had to find myself in the situation where I was leaving the police force and had to chart a path forward without any much preparation. And man, it is the hardest thing by far. Like serving in combat, buying drugs undercover in communities pales in comparison for me personally to being an entrepreneur, having to sell things. Like my first time I was like, oh, in business, what does that cost? And I'm like, what do you, well, the price for this is X or well, but we can discount it at Y because I don't want to inconvenience you, like that uncomfortable, that
Mm.
learning lessons, right? Like learning how to sell things and standing in your power of what to charge people. I've gotten to a point now where I could do presentations for 4 hours and charge a couple $1,000s. But man, it took me a journey to get there. And it was not easy. So any journey for like that for you as far as like learning how to sell or pitch your products or services?
Well, the sales stuff was the self-development stuff that I was in sales for a tech company before I started my business. Like I've always been a person of sales, but exactly like what you said, a lot of entrepreneurship is really just discovering self-value and how
Yeah.
you value your own time. Because you realize also, this is just like the psychology of sales, is it's really not about the product. And when you're trying to help people, you really think about like, okay, how can I just do the most for them? And how can I solve their problem? This is probably going back to your first question, like what lessons are you learning in business? I had to let go of the idea that I was going to solve their problem and latch more onto the understanding that I'm going to give them the tools to help them solve their own problem. And you
Mm,
can't heal them for them because then you get attached to their end result. And if their end result isn't what you want, you get disappointed in yourself or you give them discounts and you kind of discount their journey because
yeah.
whatever they're ending up with is what they ultimately need. And you should stop undermining your process just because you're assuming they don't like it or they don't want it, because everybody has different things. So, yeah, and the selling, every time you raise your rates, you're going to go through this same process or like raise your rates or step into a new category. You're going to go through this self actualization of like, how can I provide value for this? Or, am I good enough for this? And it's really like, kind of like Alex Hormozy says, you can outwork your insecurities by creating proof within yourself and doing things over and over again. So in the beginning, you always have to start something for free or low cost because you need the experience. Once you start having the lived experience, you get more confidence. Well, then you're like, okay, yeah, and it just keeps increasing.
Yeah, that confidence is that's like a superpower. I mean, I'm sure you experienced that where, it's not arrogance, it's not it what it is, it's like a deep understanding of oneself to understand everything that I can do that's good in this world, and I completely know everything that the darkness inside of me. And that gives confidence because I can double down on the beautiful stuff and I know who I am. And it's like that really I didn't have that for my whole life until I hit 40. So I think about men, how many men that I know don't have strong confidence. I read those comments on your Instagram or all those haters, anybody's feeds. There's from deep place of pain and insecurity. So it's like, how do we get men to stop being insecure? So when Elise makes a video about making cookies and about tapping in and with this awesome story and lesson all intertwined, we can be like, yo, that was a great understanding. Like, thank you. I learned something from that 90-second reel. And I think men, if we could just slow it down, stop acting like we have it all figured out, because you don't like tap into everyone around you, women, men, younger, older. You can learn from everybody, and that's how we grow, that's how we heal,
Hmm.
that's how we develop into better men than we were before. But man, tearing people down, guess what? You ain't going to grow. You ain't going to develop that way. So yeah, like
Right.
how do you rise above the negativity in business? Like let's say you go through you miss out on a deal or something like that. Like how do you stay positive and push through that?
Well, like you just said, we can learn from everyone. And, I don't have it all figured out. None of us have it all figured out. And I think that's also the mark of a good coach. Like, do they just really act like they have it all figured out? Because probably they're just bullshitting. Because only people who fake it until they make it act like they have it all figured out because they're trying to boost up their confidence with falsities, right? People
Right,
who
right.
really have some wisdom, they're going to be like, listen, dude, I don't know everything, but this is what I know from my lived experience, from that it's a natural confidence because you can't compete with the knowledge that I know. Like, I have done this, I've proved this, like, I'm going to be chill about it because you can't like discount that experience, right? So when you talk about like the negativity, if I mess up or if I miss out on something, I really try to take that into consideration because for me, I want to be the best. And like we talk about like arrogance and ego, part of me it does have arrogance and ego, and I'm like, dude, I want to be the best. I don't care about what any of y'all think. I'm not trying to be humble at times. I want to be the fucking best. I want every single hater to never be able to escape me. I want them to go on and be, I'm always fucking seeing this chick. She's always wrong. Good.
Where does that come from?
I want to snap into your vision.
Where does that come from? Where does that come from? That is fire. I just want to know where it comes from.
It comes from I'm not here just to be mediocre. I don't want to be humble. I don't want to be I feel like when people try to humble you, it's because they're mad that they're not doing what you're doing. The best people in the world, they're not fucking humble because they're the best. Why would they be? What, you think Kobe was humble or whatever? Like, no, he's on the court. He's not worrying about what you're doing. Like, I'm focused on the mission. I want to be the best because when I do something, I do it all the way. So people can complain, but I don't really care about them because I'm just focused on winning. And the more they complain, the more I'm focused on winning so they can never escape me, right? And also it's like, I never want people to be able to look back at me and be like, oh, I knew she was going to just like still be in the same place. Or, even with
Yeah.
exes, like if I'm upset by any of them or whatever, it's like, I never want them to be like, oh, dodged a bullet there. No, I want them to be like, oh, fuck. I can't escape. I can't
Yeah.
escape. It's kind of like, the greatest form of revenge is success.
That personal pain that we go through, and everybody has, like, everybody's gonna watch and be like, oh, I know what that's like. Hopefully, if you're honest with yourself, somebody's burned us, and that can be a catalyst. And I had shame with it when it happened to me at the police department. I thought I did something wrong, or I had my tail tucked between my legs. I left, I ran, and then in hindsight and reflection, I find out, kind of process all what happened. And man, I love the concept of yeah, I love it all, man. I just like, let's go of chase everything inside of you, change it all, uncover it, discover it. All right, so I have so many questions to ask you. Emotional health. I imagine a large part of coaching for you is, especially with men, is finding ways to relate to them or to connect with them so they can see not you, but more apply what you're saying to themselves. So like,
Mhm.
how have you developed your emotional health or your intuition? You said you're really intuitive, and I relate to that. So like, how do you use that or grown that over the years to be successful in your business?
When I first started posting content about mental health and men started reaching out to me, I started to study the problems and issues that they go through. So I really just tried to develop my understanding of the male's lived experience as opposed to just my lived experience. So I have my own lived experience, my own pain, and then I just put kind of like a masculine lens on top of that. So that's really kind of what's helped me because before I was ignorant to men's problems. Like it wasn't even in my world. When I first started, I wanted to be a woman's coach. I didn't even think about men. I didn't even think men had any like problems. And it was only men who reached out to me for help, I guess, because I'm like a little bit more logical or whatever. They felt comfortable with it. And I was like, why are they asking me? like I was like 26 at the time. I was like, why are they asking me? You're like 40, you have like a multi-million-dollar business. How can I help you? You know? And then I was like, well, wait a minute, Elise. You said you were going to try to save people from pain and help them with pain. So why don't you just try it? And that's when I, started realizing, oh my God, men really, they're struggling a lot actually, and they don't have any support. I started looking, my eyes were open
Yeah.
in that moment. So that just brought a whole new wave of empathy and really curiosity to really understanding the male's lived experience, and really good self-reflection of being a woman and how my actions and my words were impacting men, and just how when you don't even realize someone could be struggling, how you just dismiss their pain, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even a purposeful thing, and that's what really sucks, because like there's a lot of divisiveness and a lot of polarity between men and women right now. And a lot of men are so angry at women because they're like, oh, she's so manipulative and she does this. And it's almost like I want to be like, yeah, but she probably doesn't even know, because she's not even thinking about the fact that you are suffering from these things.
Because
And
they don't, most men don't open up and share. So how would they know?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, now, thank God, I mean, different than it was 6 years ago, right? I think there's a lot more
Yeah.
options, and this is becoming a fad, I would say.
Yep.
But it's really good because it's making people aware. But with that, there's also more divisiveness and polarity because people are fighting about masculine and feminine energy, and it's just like, whoa, like communication can solve a lot of these things. I'm totally digressing from your question, so I'll
No, no,
stop
no.
there.
I actually, so another thing I've always been interested in with, I mean, I've had some experience with it, but I imagine you just have a larger following. Setting boundaries, working with men, being ethical, being professional. Like, I imagine that's also got its challenges because men are inherently lonely, and they see, somebody moderately attractive and they think like maybe they'll be into me, and they, a lot of men don't have good boundaries, so they cross the boundaries. Like, how have you learned in business? Because you want to be successful, you want to make it there, and you don't want, I'm
Mhm.
sure you don't want to get tripped up along the way. Like, how have you learned to set those boundaries, or if you had any experiences that you had to learn how to do it?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, like in the very beginning, I struggled with boundaries myself. Like I think if you're a caring person, you can sometimes overstep. And
Yeah.
so I would like catch there were like literally only two cases where I caught myself like overstepping and being like, I'm being more of a friend to this person than a coach. And
Mm,
that's what taught me how to reel back, and understand like, no, it's not your problem to solve. Like you don't have to like baby them, and because that's all a reflection of you. You're trying to boost your own ego at that point.
right.
And I think now in my coaching, it's the boundaries are already there because the price is so high. People don't have like people are willing to pay that price. Um, there's like an automatic boundary already set, right? Like
Yeah.
they're there for a certain thing. I talk to them like a client. So we have friendly, but it's never about me. I never reveal personal information. I find it more to be like people in DMs, they're really cringe. Like, um,
Oh, I can only
so
imagine.
and even that is something that this is probably a lesson that I've learned in business now, is that I talked to my coach yesterday and I was like, she said, Elise, you told me you were going to stop reading the DMs. And I was like, yeah, but I feel guilty because like if I have time, why wouldn't I answer them? And she was like, because you don't need to waste any of your brain space on things that aren't valuing your actual like time and whatever. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was like a lesson for me to learn, because when you want to help people so bad, but that's also me crossing my own boundaries of like, okay, if I want people to purchase my stuff and I don't want to be as approachable, like you have to stop engaging in the activities that are like, I can't blame people for DMing me. They're going to DM me. Of
Sure.
course they're going to DM me. I have to stop responding. I have to stop
Right.
looking at them.
That's an interesting point. You talk about like scaling a business, and I'm further behind you, so I have the ability and care to want to respond to every message I get on LinkedIn, and I do get a lot now. It's like a daily thing. And sometimes I don't respond for days, and I apologize. So it's an interesting listening to you. Like, I don't have any, you know, where you're at and where I'm at are different places. So it's interesting to hear kind of how you are processing and handling, that. I think it's interesting. All right. So one thing I want to talk to you or ask you about, because I think it's fascinating. I've learned I wrote a book last year for the policing profession, really changed the way we lead, because I think we do it awful. And we could do a lot better. And one of the things I learned in research was adverse childhood experiences. You know, how many men, women too, bring those experiences, and that's why they choose those professions. So military, law enforcement, even clinicians, mental health clinicians, I think it's 1 in 4 clinicians have adverse childhood experiences. 1 in 5 is military, law enforcement. So it's like that pain as a kid makes you want to serve and help others as an adult. I think it's fascinating. I think it's amazing, inspirational. But also, if you don't heal those perspectives and that brokenness, you know, you're coming into the world, you think your perspective is right based on your childhood. Like, what have you kind of seen through that? And how have you helped men see, like, no, just because you think this is true doesn't mean this is actually true. Like, I imagine that's going to be challenging.
I would say for my clients, they're so open-minded that it's not necessarily challenging, even if it's hard for them to hear. It's more challenging for people who, like you said, they go into the world and like, this is my lived experience. This is not true. And it's like, you know, if you can start to, like, you're just not ready to let go, right? You're not ready to heal. You know, the response I give to them is like, okay, like, are you ready to, you know, embrace a life where you don't have to think this way? Like, yes or no. And if they're like, well, yeah, I want to have a happy, healthy relationship. I'm like, okay, so then we need to be open to a world where our perspective is not the same. Because we can only have a new movie if we have a new screen.
Interesting. I love that. New movie, new screen. That reminds me of a trauma. And real quick, I don't know why I'm going to go down this rabbit hole, but I took a trauma modality to process some of my trauma. And one of the treatments was view your life as a movie. And this is an ability to basically, you're creating a third party character of yourself. You're watching yourself go through these experiences, and you're an observer, not the participant. And I went through multiple sessions of this, and it's like you kind of get in this headspace, almost like meditation, where you're watching a movie theater and you're sitting in the movie theater watching this movie of something that happened to you, that negative act. And you can sit there as an observer and have empathy and compassion for that person that went through it. For me, it was the biggest thing. I was able to show myself so much grace, so much forgiveness. I was destroying myself, hating myself, destroying myself. So that process really helped me see myself for who I am. So I think that's cool. What you said about movie is you know, we have this movie in our lives, and we can rewrite it and redirect it and recast it if we have the courage. We don't have to just keep doing the same old stuff, and the same negative stuff happens to us. I think it's cool. All right. So your business you've been in business, what, 6 years?
Yeah.
So
almost,
in 6 more years, where are you at? And I know you thought about it. I know you thought about it. You've had some dreams, some visions. It might not happen, but you're a go-getter. I can tell that. So where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't usually think like 6 years ahead because I'm really kind of in the moment, right? But I'm moving more towards expanding this into a show. So definitely,
Awesome.
like I said, never escape. How can I get them? Because the social media and the screens are everywhere. All right.
Yeah.
Billboards, TV, commercial, no escaping.
That's incredible. That's
If it's
incredible.
still
Yeah.
within the realms of men's mental health, I'm in the immediate future. Yes. In 6 years, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that will be. I will always be a supporter of men's mental health. But I think this is a business that, you know, it has its time, and I can't be doing this for my whole life, just as a realistic business
The
standpoint.
creator space is interesting. Like, it's just created, it's changed everything for all of us. Do you see like did you see yourself getting into creating content as much as coaching, or is that also something you kind of just get stumbled into and you're like, I'm good at it. I know how to do it. I know how to communicate and relate to people.
The content, it was what I was doing first.
Gotcha.
I love the
Okay.
content. Yeah, like I never really thought of myself as a content creator, but someone said that to me once. They're like, you're not a coach who does content, you're a content creator who coaches.
Ooh, I
And
like
I was
that.
like, wow, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll probably just eventually transition completely into more entertaining content creation. Also because like you just witness the world, like in business, it's so interesting to witness the world of, you know, this space, because people can make money off of anything. Like people make money off the slime. People like, and it's opened up opportunities. I really hate to say this, but before you had to be like very professional. You know, you had to look the part. But now the part that you need to look is like those rules are eliminated because
Yeah.
we have people from all sorts of backgrounds just
Yeah.
making bank, dude, like getting invited to the VMAs because they're like eating food. Like it's crazy, you know? Like
It is crazy. I
why? I
know.
don't know, but like that's the truth of it.
It
So it's
is.
just
Yeah.
it's so interesting. There are no rules. And so like I think the less that people think about like rules, like the more successful you can become. Like there's no like just be unhinged, you know?
Yeah. That action is so important. You said earlier, like getting the website, getting the lawyers, getting the accountant all squared away. Let's get the books all tightened up. I want to make this campaign. I want to apply for this grant. And I want to have some cash flow on hand before we do this, you know? Well, that could take
Dude,
6 months. Okay. Just do it.
just say Hawk Tua
Yeah.
on a microphone. Dude, that girl's on stages.
Okay.
She
All right.
literally said spit on a man's pencil.
Can we talk
And
about this?
now she's famous.
Can we
Can you
talk about this?
imagine?
So I'm not hating. I'm not hating, and I'm not a
I
hater.
can't either. I'm amazed.
I'm amazed. Right, right. It almost is
I'm
like she has a
amazed.
podcast now. She was who she was. I saw a picture of her of Magic Johnson and Shaq. It's like, where is she at? She was on a street interview talking about, like you said, oh, giving fellatio, and it was like now she's famous, and it's like,
And
wow,
it's crazy because just the way that she said it, like, and this is why it's so important that tone and energy and whatever make a difference. Because if a woman who we saw as like someone who could have OnlyFans had said that, she would have been torn apart,
100%.
right? But because Hawk Tuah girl had like this innocent energy and she's very young,
Girl next door.
everybody
Yep.
saw it was funny. And then they're like, oh, she's a genius, you know?
And dudes wanted to hang out with her. They're always like her friend, their friend, and she tapped it.
Yeah, like they don't see her as like a whore, even though she said something that could be very whorish. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
you just look at the complexities of this, and it's so fascinating. And sometimes I think, dude, like, what is some crazy wackadoo? Sometimes I think about just making a shitpost account where I do crazy wackadoo stuff. Like, I don't tell anybody about it. Which one of these things is gonna go viral? Like, I think about this all the time. I
That's
really do.
hilarious. The psychology of business and the psyops of selling things and connecting with people. That's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down one day. Maybe we could do another podcast on like the psychology of it, because I think this whole world is almost like a game. It's almost like it's like a game, right? And if you don't know that and you take everything so seriously, thinking that like, you get in your little echo chambers, but then you kind of get out in the world and you realize, hopefully, that no, this is largely a game. And I don't say it to like diminish anybody's life, but I mean, like, you have to kind of learn the rules of the world, and largely we're not in control. And like you said, there are no rules anymore in this content creator space. And take a shot, put something out there. You know what it is? I was watching, this actually helped me write my book, and I want to see your opinion on this. Who's the music producer? Oh my God.
Scooter Braun?
No. Oh, long beard. I watch his videos all the
Long
time.
beard.
He's amazing. He works with all these famous artists. He mixes all this stuff. Just has this great vision. Very authentic. And what he's talking about when you create stuff, if you're creating it for you and you end up wanting to share it with the world, that's great. But if you're find yourself in a spot where you're creating things purposely for others or purposely to get engagement, that's not really authentic, and you're going to be frustrated largely if it's not working for you. So that really helped me as I started making content of like, I'm doing this for me. There's a lot of stuff I've never put out. My book, was like, that was the message, I'm writing it for me, doing everything for me. Then if I feel comfortable, I'll share it with the world and be okay with that outcome. And that for me, kind of what you said earlier, is like, that's my why. And that's how I can stay so confident, keep moving, is like, I believe I'm here for the right reason and doing it the right way. So, you kind of generate momentum by tuning out the haters and keep moving. I think that's the recipe in business to be successful.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. So what online classes or online courses have you started? Like I'm interested in from the business perspective, how you take your time and maximize it. How you take, I'm assuming you have online stuff, right? Stuff online or products
That
like
I sell?
Yeah, that you sell.
Not anymore.
Okay. How do you maximize your time? Because I'm interested about that, because I'm coaching one-on-one now, and I can't do anything else. That one session, I'm with one person for X number of dollars, and I love it and I value it, but like, how do you get so much more, scale up in the business sense?
I mean, so I set my one-on-one coaching to a price that feels fair to me. It doesn't feel fair to a lot of people who can't afford it. But I love the content creation, so I make a lot of content for free that people can enjoy. I have free masterclasses online, and I did have a men's group that people paid a membership price for, and every week we would meet. But it just didn't feel in alignment anymore. So it's interesting that you asked that, because right now I'm just in a season where I am up leveling my business again. So if you would ask me, it's like last year, I'd be like, yeah, I'm maximizing my time by having this membership, and many people are paying to do it monthly, and maybe I'll have a course from that. But all of that stuff just kind of bores me, to be honest. Like, I can't do something that I find boring, and everybody does it. Everybody has a course.
Right,
Many
I
people
agree.
have books, and I just have my one-on-one coaching as an offer. If you want my time, you can do one-on-one coaching with me, or buy the intensive, which we will film and make into a show. Right? And
Wow.
that's the next level that I'm going to. So I sacrifice consistent revenue sometimes in the name of, I just want to be able to commit to making the very best product that I possibly can. So I haven't hit the point yet where I felt in resonance with a digital product that is apart from my content creation that people will buy.
It's so interesting now. Like, you can, like you said earlier, there is no rules. So if it works for you, and it works in your life, like, man, that is the coolest thing in the world. People
That's
work.
like against everybody's, they'll tell you do the free masterclass and have this funnel, and I'm just like, dude, I don't resonate with any of that crap, because you have to do what, like you said, if you're making stuff for you, what would I go through and what would I buy? Well, when I look at Alex and Layla Hermosi, and they don't have many things that you can buy, it's kind of like once they put something out, you're like, I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just I guess I just resonate more along with stuff like that. And people really like this connection,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
It's so cool to chat with you one-on-one, and get this lived experience than it is I don't really want to buy your course, because then I have to take time out of my day and sit there, and I'm bored, and I have ADHD, and I'm like, I don't have ADHD, but I'm just saying, many people, we have that
Yeah.
thing, we're addicted to the dopamine. And so people want connection more than anything.
Yeah, that's a great
So,
point. That's a great point. And what works for one person might not work for another, and vice versa. So
right.
I think too many people, like I did that when I was getting into business 3 years ago. Again, I had no experience, no mentors. So I went to some business classes, started reaching out to people on LinkedIn that I didn't know, strangers that I thought were successful or believed were. And they're all telling me, follow the script, here's how you're successful, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I was spinning my wheels largely because I'm doing what they want me to do, or what they thought was successful in my business. And largely, a lot of that was incorrect. It's like, and I had to learn, whoa, take advice, take feedback, take suggestions, and then think of how you can apply it. And if it doesn't work, keep moving. Don't get all bogged down with it. I used to get a little negative, oh, it's not working, and so just said this is the right way to do it. It's not working for me. Who cares? Move on. Pivot and find a way forward. It's like the resilience is the entrepreneur's, lifeline. So how has there been a point in your life where you weren't resilient? I'm curious about this too, because you seem like you're super confident, super resilient now. Was there a point, and then how did you, what was that process like for you? Just if you don't mind sharing how you developed your resilience.
Dude, I kind of hate these questions that you're asking me, because I sound kind of like an asshole, because I'm like, no, I really was always like this.
You were always like
Um,
this?
yeah, man. I mean, that's not to say I'm not a perfect person, but the questions that you're asking me, were you always confident in XYZ, or were you always resilient? Yeah, because when I was a kid, I had a dysfunctional childhood. So I just also am a Sagittarius. Not that anybody really cares about that, but fire signs will get it. Okay. You just when you don't have anybody kind of guiding you, and you have big dreams, you kind of just you have to figure things out by yourself. So I had to be resilient. I had to figure out how to live life and have street smarts and have common sense because I didn't have a guide. Like my parents really weren't there. So nobody was giving me any rules. So it was like totally free. But also when it came to like adulting or figuring out like really like how to make money because I grew up poor, then I really had to figure that out. So you grow up really fast and it makes you resilient and it makes you persevere and it makes you confident because you have to learn sales and whatever as a kid. Like I
Yeah.
had to figure
Wow.
it out. So that's why, you know, and then I just had this drive to want to be the best because I wanted to escape the life that I had. You know, I was like, I don't want to ever be here again. I don't ever
Mm.
want to be here again. So when you have something that you're running away from with full speed, you develop those skills very quickly. And I think it's like you said, like, I think a lot of people, let's go back way to the beginning when you're like, oh, people are complaining in the comment section and men are, you know, like they're so upset. I think, and just in the US today, when people are becoming social justice warriors, when you have a soft life, you have a hard life.
Mm.
When you have a hard life, you can develop the skills that give you a soft life. I'm not saying everybody should have a hard life, but I am saying that I think too many people have had too much softness in their life where it hasn't pushed them to be so hungry that they don't care about, oh, how do you find motivation? And like, dude, you find motivation because you just don't want to be broke. You don't want to be a loser. You don't want to be a fucking loser. Like, listen, if
Oh.
you are working, you're not worried about what everybody else is doing because you just don't want to be a loser.
Mm.
Right. And if you're so upset because so and so is saying this, so and so is saying that, like, you're not hungry enough. You haven't suffered enough. Like, because the real world is full of lies now because everyone's trying to be politically correct. So now we're developing a bunch of secret enemies instead of like, the reality is like, there are no rules. You should know the rules so that you can break them, to break people's idea of reality. And yeah, authenticity is just rare.
It
I know,
is. It
totally
is.
digress there, but when,
No,
yeah.
it is rare. And it's the funny thing is like I found that to be for me that is the number one thing that drives, I guess for any of us, that drives me to develop a relationship with somebody, a friendship or whatever, is I can see them for who they are and they don't try to put on, you know, some mask and try to pretend, because that will just send me right off because I don't have time, because I've been through those relationships now, those experiences. They generally don't end in a positive way. So I've just learned I don't have time for that anymore. But in my younger years, I cared so much and I'm going to save you and help you and be there for you. And I would allow you to I would take on those arrows in the back. And I'm not saying arrows in the back is a bad thing. I think they're necessary at times when you're trying to change things. And like you said, you got to take the comments and the arrows because you're doing what's right. But you don't also have to be a martyr either and take unnecessary arrows. And I did that for sure. So I think that's the journey that I'm learning, you know, almost 44 is in this coaching space and business space, how to keep caring at a high level, but also realize, like you said, I'm not going to get every DM. And I have to get to a
Mhm.
place now where I got to be comfortable with that and just, you know, and I'm not there yet, to be honest, but that's my next growth journey. So I appreciate you sharing that because that
Right.
is a place to get to, because like you post a lot of content. How do you have so much time to do that? I mean, I guess that is the primary thing you do. You're a content creator and a coach, and then a coach. But do you have a schedule with that, or are you just like you're just kind of instinctual, or just like I have an idea, I'm going to go make it?
Yeah, that's how I operate. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people and coaches have schedules and they plan it out and they map it out. Um, you know, I live a chill life. Dude, I love my life so much. And this is the thing too, is like, you know, like I started thinking about this yesterday. Like a lot of my content is almost like a self-reflection. Like I really like reflect on my current daily wounds or emotions or whatever. And like you know, you see like a lot of content creators and stuff, they're like, everybody has anxiety, everybody goes through this, but like, and I have to be the asshole that goes, I have no anxiety in my life. I love my life so much because I'm fucking chilling. Like, I'm not stressed out about anything. Even if like stressful stuff comes in my path, like I'm so able to just cast it aside because I have confidence that I will figure it out. And so I go, how can I teach this to my people? You
Mm,
know, because
right.
that is why people buy the coaching from me, because I embody the feeling that they want. right? I'm living the life that they want. Like, I'm not as rich as, I'm definitely not rich. Like, I'm not as rich as, I'm not rich at all, but my life is fucking rich, dude. Like, my life is so good. And the fact that I just love life so much, I'm like, how can I portray this through the content? And
Wow.
not
Wow.
say, oh, but like, just let them know, like, dude, your life, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what traumas you have. It doesn't matter like how successful you are. Do you love your life? Because you're going to die. And now I'm
Right.
getting into the field of, Christianity and religion and stuff. So I started thinking, okay, what can I offer to my high end clients? Because I work with like a lot of celebrities and politicians and CEOs. And like at a certain point, the materialistic goals that you can achieve in this life, they're just not enough. Like you feel so fulfilled after 15, 20 years of getting there. And then you're like, damn, dude, what's next? So I start thinking about, okay, like what's the next level of coaching that how can I serve these clients? And I started really feeling called to think, okay, you have everything you could want in this life, but like, let's start thinking about, instead of legacy, let's think about eternity, because legacy is still a worldly goal. But what if you put yourself into eternity,
Mm,
into a never ending time frame? Are you doing a life that is fulfilling for your soul, not just for your earthly happiness? And that's where we really start to dig deep, because it's no longer about the nice car and people who I love. It's like, oh my God, like the temptations of my human desires. Am I,
mm,
like, am I seeing other people for their eternal soul, right? Because we can get
yeah.
so caught up in everything that fulfills us in this life. So it's like you really start to change your perspective and think about what the next level is. And
Yeah, that is that's deep. I love it. No, I listen, I love to go deep. So I was the guy in the military. I went in the military at 17. I'm going to tell you this quick story. I went in the military at 17. Some of my childhood experiences where I definitely was looking for the validation of older men, the validation of just men in general, leaders or mentors. So that created me to work really hard and develop these desire to really want to do a good job. So that also allowed me to also get hurt sometimes by these men who would take advantage of that. So I say that to say I've never felt really developed, and then I always felt this need to chase the affirmation of older men or just men I've been around. Right or wrong, good men or bad men. If you like me and you're nice to me, or I'm doing something good. I'm in this mode now where like the only one I'm trying to impress is Jesus. The example that he has
mm-hmm.
set for me. So if it doesn't fulfill what I think he would have lived like or what the scripture says, um, that is the eternity that I'm trying to get to. So it's helped me in a mindset shift when I look at broken men now and they still do bad things to me or unkind things. I don't take it personally anymore. I look at them and I'm like, man, like you're messed up, like I'm able to see that now where I used to get that so down the rabbit hole. My self-esteem and self-confidence were so low that I allow these broken men to affect me. And it's interesting to get to a point now where, the authority is really all I'm looking at. And that has just created like momentum in my life. So yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, I'm getting chills. Yeah, because it's the exact same thing that I think about now. Because before, I also, like, everybody, I mean, not everybody, but for the most part, we grow up and we become very attached to our parents. We see them as gods, right? Because they're taking care of us. But when you become an adult, you get so frustrated with them because they don't see your perspective and they're from a different generation, and you're like, why can't you just be like X, right?
Right.
Because we're seeing them as if they are God.
Hmm.
They should be perfect for us. They should be the exact perfect father, the exact perfect mother that we need. And we get so mad because they're constantly disappointing us. And when you can let that go and understand, oh, they're just humans. They're never going to be perfect. And in fact, any of our mentors that we then latch onto because we think they're better than our parents, any of our mentors that we latch onto, we find out a mistake that they've made. You realize, oh my God, like they are not the ideal.
Hmm.
The ideal is something that represents perfection, which is like, for Christians or whatever, it's God. It's like if you can look up to it, and this is something I tell men too, you need something to look up to.
Hmm.
And
It's
and
true.
even if you're not religious, the Bible has rules that if you follow them, you will live a good life, because it teaches you self-discipline. It teaches you how to understand the difference between like a good person and a not good person, someone who has your best intention, someone who doesn't.
Hmm.
And if you can idolize perfection instead of a man who is flawed, well, then your life is so much better and you have so much more room for empathy and forgiveness. And you're not relying on those relationships to support an ideal that you're making up. You love people
Yeah.
for who they are. God is perfection and God is eternal. So if I'm going to put my faith in something, it's not going to be less than what is eternal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you know what? Like that also, it helps us see ourselves for who we are as individuals. You know,
Exactly.
we don't have to beat ourselves up or look. I mean, I was a guy that like nobody could destroy me more than I could destroy myself. I promise you, the voice in my head and the things I would say to myself when I'm alone were some of the worst things you could imagine. I mean, horrible things. And I even wrote about it in my book because they were like just, horrible. And, oh my God, I don't even know what we're talking about. What were we just talking about there? I totally lost
Um,
my train of thought.
no, it's okay. The how we idolize people on this earth and how
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
yeah.
So that shift for me has helped me see now. Thank you for that. When the new mindset shift, when I see broken men, it's like I want to help them more, and it helps me put better boundaries up because I know what I'm dealing with. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's created this momentum in my life where it's like I see you for who you are. I'm going to run to where you're at. I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to pour into you, however long that takes. But I also know I'm going to have to pop smoke and get out of here because I also know if you don't want to do it, I can't do it for you, where I didn't think like that before. So, yeah, that is a powerful place to be in because then you can see the world for what it is and not what you want it to be, and I think that's a
Yeah.
distinction.
It also gives you a script for living life. Like, and I'm so recent to just reading the Bible. Um, but it makes life in a way like a lot easier. Like I'm not fully in I was totally invested in like going to church and going to Bible studies. But in the last couple of weeks, I've been questioning it again. So like I'm kind of in this in between space. But I want to give an example for any men or women who might be listening to this after, who are questioning the rules and whatever. It's good to live your life by a set of rules that you can rely on, that you know are going to give you a good ending, right? It is really good because it makes it easy to say yes and no to certain things. So like, for example, like I know the type of man that I want and that I'm looking for because I'm committed to a set of core values that are based upon, yeah, my own desires, but also desires of scripture. And so when I went on a date the other night and I said, this is going to be so out of pocket. So I'm so sorry if this is like, so when I said, yeah, ideally I would like to wait until marriage to have sex. And they said, well, listen, if I find someone really attractive, I'm not going to keep my dick in my pants. That is a complete, like, clashing of ideologies. And I'm not a virgin. I'm not going to pretend to be. But like when you have different ideologies, it's like why I now want to commit to something like that is because, okay, it teaches you like that different types of people who cave into temptation, different types of people who have commitments, this whole universe now that I see in the men's universe all the time, where these mentors that they're latching onto,
Yeah.
where they're like, men are programmed to desire multiple women, they're programmed to cheat, they're programmed to do this. That's not true. And they're posing as men who follow God.
That's it.
God calls some men and women to be marriageless and to be married to him and to be sexless for their whole lives. God says, if you like in scripture, it says, it's better if you can resist temptation to remain single, to be committed completely to God. Like, so when these men are like, I can't imagine a worse mentor that teaches men, because when I heard, oh, I'm not going to keep my dick in my pants, I hear, oh, I'm not a man who controls my temptations. I'm not
right.
a man who
Right.
controls my desires. I'm not a man who values my body, my time, the people that I sleep with. I'm not a man who respects women. A lot was said in that statement
Right. Right.
because it's not about the sex. It's about, can you have self-control?
Right.
Can you look beyond your desires? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like so much. So I really, when I look at these men who have these podcasts and they're like, yeah, like a woman's just going to have to understand that a high value man's got options and he's going to want to cheat. A high value man understands his worth, his value, his time. He's not messing about creating these terrible compounding bad karmas. Because you
What?
know how like energetically that fucks you over? Like it's
Yeah,
disgusting. It's not about he has options. Everybody, when they have a valuable soul, has options that they can just sleep with anyone, of course. But the fact that you do that diminishes. It's like slicing deli meat, like, okay, you're so thin, like, okay, like nobody wants that. Nobody wants that guy, except
yeah.
for people who are very, very low value themselves. You match
Eh,
with each other. Like, so I'm going off on a tangent with this, but it's
No,
so
no.
crazy.
There's
Like,
so many
that's your
dudes.
that's the
Yeah.
guy you're going to follow? Someone who has no ability to resist temptation?
I,
Absolutely not.
I'm
Like,
going to say something here. It might be a little controversial because you're kind of setting me down the road too. And this is something I think, and I try my hardest not to judge because I try to be a good Christian. But when I see multiple divorces, the first thing I think about is like there's something off, and I don't want to judge because there's reasons why people get divorced. So I'm not. I mean, like I was a cop and I saw domestic violence for one, and it's not something to joke around about. So,
yeah.
but there are a lot of divorces in this country, so we can't act like every divorce is domestic violence related. So when I see divorce, especially multiple divorces, the first thing I think about, I'm naturally suspicious. I'm naturally like, right or wrong, I think like what's going on there? Like, why can't this person have a successful marriage? I'm just curious about it. I'm not judging, but I am curious. I'm thinking about it. And I never tell them that, but it's like an interesting thing because too many men are following dudes, too many mentors on podcasts or social media have huge followings that are toxic guys. Let's just call it like it is. They're toxic. They're making money off our division. They're making money.
Yeah.
Like like a lot of these guys that follow these famous influencers, they're never going to be millionaires. They're never going to be wealthy. They're never going to be any of that. Yet we promise them, follow me, do this, and get girls and this, get money. That's never going to happen for them. And you're kind of telling them it's going to happen if they just stick with you a little
It's
longer. And it's
never going to
frustrating.
happen for them also because they're telling them the ways of like Satan. And I don't want to bring religion to this, but it's like when you don't have commitment and you can't resist your temptation, you get this party lifestyle that they're advertising, but you don't get success.
All right.
Any successful person has a one track. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's exactly what you're saying. They're following the way of the men of those mentors and getting what they have, but it's none of it is. They're not actually going to become successful because that's not how success is created,
That's so true. They're
right?
chasing the carrot. Yeah. And then they get disappointed when it doesn't work out or their life isn't fulfilled like they thought it would be. Like I'm still lonely, or the money's not enough for me anymore. Yeah, because you built a life on material possession. You didn't build it off core values or foundation.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
then they need something to blame, so they blame women. So I just really want to comment on your comment about divorces and stuff
yeah,
because it's not men's faults that all divorces are happening, and it's not all women's fault. Like we're living in a society that has with our freedoms, we have thrown away a guidebook to what things mean. So now
mm,
we're just marrying like before. And this is always what people reference. They're like, back in the old days, it was so much better. Like people actually stuck together and they loved each other. They really stuck together because they had a system and a process, and it was an arrangement.
right.
You can, and like people always talk about marriage is just a business plan. It's like just a contract with the government. Yes, it is. So think about that when you're getting married. People are blindly getting married based on love. Love changes. You can't get married just because you love someone. You should love that
Woo.
person,
All right, tell me
but
about tell me more about this. So you
I made
somebody
a whole YouTube video
you
about
did
it.
somebody commented like some guy I could tell he's pretty lonely
I
because
don't
he
think I
kept.
posted it yet.
Oh, okay. There's one
Oh,
on there. You talked about this recently about love changes over time. And I was
oh
reading
yeah,
this
yeah.
comment, and some guy, you could tell he's a lonely guy, probably in his basement, but because he just peppered you with like 10 comments in a row about like, you're so beautiful and you say so right, but you're so wrong. Love that is forever. It never changes, Elise. You're wrong. You'll see one day, Elise. You'll see. I'll show you one day, like all these. But it's like, man, what is going on in that person's life? And I think you're right, though. Everything is in a constant state of change. Everything. And it's okay to say that. It's okay. It's not
You
scary.
have to. No,
Yeah.
because if you listen, if you want to like, and I think successful business people think like this. I'm not going to claim myself as a successful business person. I've just worked with them a lot. It's like you have to think 10 steps ahead. You have to think years into the future. So if you want a successful marriage, you have to see it almost like a business transaction. And it helps you pick out a partner better, because a lot of people don't know why they fall in love in the first place.
Mm,
And that's what sinks their ship, because a lot of
interesting.
people are falling in love based on their trauma, based on what they never got in childhood. So
Wow.
you're loving someone based on your trauma, and you're not thinking about core values. You're not thinking about, well, what happens, you say, in sickness and in health, but when sickness and no health comes and that person changes their personality, you're like, well, they changed. Of course they changed. They were always going to change. You don't think someone's going to change after 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years of being together? So you have to analyze this person of like, okay, who is the core of who this person is? Because at the end of the day, people are going to fall back on who they are, not who they love, not
Mm,
who they showed up as in the beginning of the relationship. So when they start to change, are you going to like those changes? We can become predictors of human behavior. So a lot of men will complain the intimacy is gone. A lot of men will complain she got fat. A lot of men will complain like she doesn't accept my emotions when I'm emotional. Okay, what you have to think about, how are you showing up in the beginning? Like, are you someone who presented himself as a person who communicates? No. Well, then you partnered with someone who didn't give a shit about that. You have to take responsibility. Did you partner with someone who valued health and fitness in the beginning, or you just loved her and she's skinny now, but she eats like shit. She like eats Chick-fil-A and she like drinks soda. So then when she got pregnant, she never lost the baby weight because fitness wasn't important to her. You have to look at who the core of the person is. If you're
mm.
always going to want a fit wife, choose someone who values fitness, that no matter what happens, they're going to go to the gym because that's who the fuck they are. If you want
So true.
someone who
Yeah.
values being intimate, you have to choose someone who they're like, dude, sex is important to me. I always want it. This is part of who I am. This is what it was like in my past relationships. I'm always going to want this, you know? Not someone who just gave it to you before marriage happened and then stopped once the baby was born. Like, you have to analyze these things, because then 5, 10, 15 years down the line, when the love has changed or more or gone, or like life events have changed you, oh, the core of that person, I actually still like and respect them and it still resonates with me. You just got to be smart about it, dude, or else
Yeah.
don't get married. Don't go into a contract where people go into business contracts they don't understand, and that's a contract, right?
Yeah. You're bringing up basically that you're entering in a contract through your pain and your dysfunction. And of course, if you want to make a decision based on that or some of it, that's going to come back down the road. Somebody told
Exactly.
me when I was going through therapy, 5 years ago, um, that you can only love somebody as much as you can love yourself. And when they
Hmm.
told me that, I said, wow, like, because I was feeling a lot of shame, a lot of guilt myself. And I'm like, well, that's probably why I'm not showing up, for other people that way. And then as I started to heal and work on myself and started to have a lot of love and appreciation for who I am as a human, that made my relationships deepen and get better and be more curious of the world and be willing to go out and be more vulnerable and be more authentic and share, because now I'm not judging myself. See, before I judged myself, so why would I share anything vulnerable with Elise or anybody in the world? I'm already judging myself enough for you to judge. I don't want your judgment, but now I don't care about your judgment. So let's go, and it's a great place to be in. And I hope more people can get in that spot.
Yeah, and like the more you know yourself, the more selfish you are. Like we're so shamed for like actually asking for what we want. Even me, when I'm expressing my love for God on here, I'm like, well, not everyone's religious, because I'm still hesitant about it, right? I still
Right.
feel a little bit of like, I feel like there's going to be backlash for this. But like, the more you can express yourself and the more authentic you can be, the better it is for everyone. The more selfish you are in dating, not in like you're a piece of crap type of way, but like the more selfish you are about like exactly what you want, and stating that and being confident about it, the better it is for anyone, because you're not pulling any punches. Like,
Yeah.
like, and it takes work to say that, but a lot of people are like, I just want someone nice. I just want a good guy. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does
Right.
that actually mean? Because a lot of men are pissed off because you say you want a good guy and they're trying to be what they think is a version of a good guy. And you're like, not really that. Well, like, give some feedback, because
Yeah.
nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. And then that's how you know you're attracted to your trauma response. So if you're a guy or a girl who can't be so specific about what you want, part of your attraction is coming from pain.
Mm.
Part of your chemistry is coming from pain. I know exactly what I want. And it's just better. It's just better to say that and just to be outright with it. But it's like almost shameful because you sound something like, I want a man who's going to want to take care of me. I don't want to pay any bills. I don't want to do any of this, but I want to reciprocate in the love that I have. Like any man who partners with me, their life is going to be increased, like the value of it by 100x because I've built this platform, because I've done this. I don't want to work for the rest of my life. I want to put all of my time, energy, and effort like behind his business, and he can be the leader. Like, but these are things like some men are gonna love that. Some men are gonna be like, "Oh, you're so selfish. Like you should." No, I don't care about you. Like,
Interesting.
But it took a
Interesting.
long time for me to be okay with that because I felt like I was gonna be judged and people were gonna see me as selfish. But like, no, there are some people that want that, and they, like you should be so like looking for someone who says things honestly like that because they're not gonna pull the rug out from under you later on in time,
Yeah. You know what?
right?
And we live in a world where everybody's lying. I have just celebrated authenticity. So like, I celebrate you for just saying that's what you want. Like in a world where everybody's lying, hey man, like go get it and good luck and let me know if I can support
Take
you
care
along
of
your
me.
way.
If you're not
Yeah.
gonna take care of me, I don't want it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because like,
Yeah.
why would I be with somebody else? Like I'm already alone taking care of myself, so I'm gonna be in a relationship where I'm taking care of myself and someone else. Like I'm not
Interesting.
doing that. I'm not doing that.
So we're gonna end on this because I think that's fascinating what you're saying, and I want to leave people with something. I don't know. This is kind of how I am. I'm cheesy, but I want to leave people like a piece of
Don't leave
advice.
me in a bad light. I don't want people to think, oh my
Oh no, no,
God.
you showed up so vulnerably and authentic and fun and experience. I think your experience really shines. So I appreciate that. What's like one thing that you learned in the last couple years that maybe you keep close to yourself that you wouldn't mind sharing that could really help somebody that maybe they're going through a tough season with mental health, emotional health. Maybe it's a woman who doesn't know how to ask for help, or a man who is trying to be somebody that he's not just because he thinks that's what he's supposed to be. Like, how do you speak to people in those moments that, not deep, but just give them some words of wisdom or encouragement?
Um, when people are going through hard times, I'll speak to a different side because people are gonna be like, oh, you're not going through it alone. Like, yes, but also I think when a lot of people are going through like serious bouts of depression and having suicidal thoughts, they tend to be in environments where they feel like they're a burden. Like I've totally been through this. Like many people think about killing themselves. Like it's not a mystery anymore. Like people were like, "Oh my God, they thought about killing." Like many people are driven today to feel like they want to kill themselves because it's hard. It's hard to feel connected. It's hard to feel understood. Um, when you feel like you're in this place where the world is going to be better off without me, I don't want to talk about it. Know that you are not a burden. Know that there is someone always willing to listen, and you might just be in the wrong environment.
Mm.
You might just be in an environment that is poisoning you. And if you can reach out to someone like, this is why strangers are very helpful in these times, even. So reach out to someone, find an online community where people are going to understand you, and that understanding will help you realize why you're feeling that way and get you out of it. The world is not a better place without you. Usually people who think that the world is a better place without them are actually like so valuable, as opposed to the people who think the world couldn't survive without me. Those are the worst people. The world might be better off without them. But
So
like
true. So
uh
true.
you
Wow.
know your value has not been expressed yet, and death is guaranteed to all of us. So sometimes when I get in that space, so I'm like, dude, I might as well go out with a bang. I might as well do something significant first and make it worthwhile, because I'm going out. None of us are getting out alive, so I might as well just do something fun first or whatever. Like, so yeah, get out of the environment that's making you feel sick and speak to someone who's going to understand you.
Wow. Yeah, great advice. I followed your advice. That's when I left the police department, got out of that environment. So I appreciate you, Elise. Thanks for keeping it real. Keep up the best, like keep going forward. Like I can't wait to support you and just see all the good stuff you're doing. I authentically mean that. Like I hope you're very successful, and I hope you get all the things you want to get, and you find the joy in life that you keep working for, and touching people's lives along the way. So all the best to you.
Thanks so much, Chad. I appreciate you. And a fellow brother in Christ, I'm loving this.
There we go. Yep. I'll support you in your journey and you support me in mine. So, all right. Take care, Elise. Have a good one.
Okay.
See ya. Bye. Uh-oh. Did that end?